Wow.
Welcome to another edition of Good Times Theater. I'm Paul Ireland. Today we're talking about the 1987 classic, Masters of the Universe. Joining me is Gary Goddard. Gary, welcome to the show, and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
I'm the director of the movie, Masters of the Universe.
That's great, Gary. Let's play a little clip from the movie.
Look, you've got the wrong songmaker, Gwildor. All right, I'm just a stupid keyboard player in a high school band.
Gary, can you explain to us what's going on here?
That's the message of the movie right there, I think.
That sounds incredibly stupid, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Times with Bad Movies. I'm Tim Morrison, joined by my co-host. He works at Ravi's Chicken, Paul Ireland. Paul, how you doing?
Thanks, Tim. Really excited to be back for another episode of Good Times with Bad Movies. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm great, as always. We've got another fun episode today. We chose the movie Masters of the Universe from 1987, distributed by Canon Films. Canon Films also did Over the Top. That's another episode we have starring Sylvester Stallone. You should go watch it. But today we're talking about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I just side note, I love Over the Top. This movie came out the same year. It also, just a little connection there, starred Dolph Lundgren, who just 2 years before that did Rocky IV with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren plays He-Man in this movie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Both movies, I guess really critically didn't do that well. Personally, I think Over the Top is fantastic for completely the wrong reasons. This is something else, Tim.
Yeah, this is a really bizarre film. So those of you who aren't familiar with He-Man, I'll give you just a basic premise. He's like a, superhero from the 80s. And his name is Prince Adam, and he morphs into He-Man to fight for, I guess, he fights the evil villain named Skeletor, and they both live on Eternia. This is like a planet somewhere in the universe. This movie's a bit different. This shaves off a lot of those details from He-Man, but this is a He-Man movie nonetheless. Paul, did you ever watch the He-Man cartoons?
No, you know what, Tim? It's actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I kind of watched He-Man, but not really. So when I was a kid, I had some of the little books. They were at my house, at my grandparents' house, I should say. And they had some like the She-Ra books too, which is kind of also in the same universe.
It's a spinoff, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I was like, these guys look kind of cool and stuff. And then I remember when the cartoon would come on, my parents were like, oh, He-Man's on. Do you want to watch He-Man? So I was like, oh, okay. Let me watch this cartoon that I think, because the books look cool. So let me watch this cartoon. And I always just remember this cartoon just kind of sucked, I thought. I don't know if that's a hot take or whatever, controversial or whatever, but...
Oh, there's a lot of people that grew up with this. I think it's more synonymous with like a lot of people's childhoods.
It's just, I guess so. I mean, whatever. So I'm not a fan of it when I was a kid. But they don't really explain a lot of stuff about He-Man in this movie. So if you were a kid in 1987, I'm assuming just the hype was so big that you just kind of knew some stuff about He-Man. If you didn't know anything now, like the first 10 minutes of this are very, very strange and confusing.
Yeah, it's really weird. So I don't want to say this is loosely based on the show, but there's a lot of things that they changed, and I'm not sure why. But in the cartoon, he is a prince, and his name is Adam, and he wears clothes. But then when he turns into He-Man, he grabs the mighty sword. I can't remember what the sword's called. Maybe we'll hear it in this. But he grabs the sword and he looks to this guy and he says, I have the power. And then he gets the power of Grayskull, which morphs him into a bondage-wearing, muscled-up guy with still holding the giant sword. And he is all-powerful. And he saves the day. He saves the day every day. And that's basically the gist of He-Man. And I don't think there's much more lore to it than that. Maybe it's been expanded on, in later versions. But for the most part, this is all about selling toys.
You're right. He is kind of wearing bondage gear, I suppose. He's
not kind of wearing it. he is wearing it. And like I shouldn't say, I guess I'm really referring to this movie. We'll talk about that once we see Dolph Lundgren come in. But
Again, I've said this before. It's 1987. A lot of people doing cocaine, thinking these are good decisions. So I just feel like, yeah, it's just one of those things. Maybe not. Could be wrong.
well, Paul, why don't you give us a premise of this? So anybody who's never seen it or heard of this, here's what this movie is about.
All right. So yeah, if you've never seen Masters of the Universe, let's give you a little synopsis here. It is about a brave warrior who must free a beautiful sorceress who's imprisoned by an evil ruler, but the key has been hidden on Earth and found by a teenage duo.
It's funny that it doesn't mention anything about He-Man or Skeletor in the in the synopsis or
No, this is Tubi though, so this is like dollar store streaming, Dollar General or Dollar Tree or whatever you've got in your town there, folks. That's what this is basically like. So, with that being said, Tim, why don't we just jump into this? What do you think?
All right, let's go to Eternia. So this movie starts out with a lot of wind and a sharp, low note of a synthesizer. And we are on Eternia, and we see this castle. It's a skull, and the castle is called Castle Grayskull. And it is protected by a sorceress, and she has kept this castle safe for a very long time. For those who control the castle, control the universe, and they can become masters of the universe. Then we get this music that is got to be like the closest knockoff I've ever heard to the Superman theme. We see Skeletor, and he is inside Castle Grayskull. He has already kidnapped the sorceress, and now his plan is to kill He-Man and rule the universe. I believe he wants the sword. He wants this sword from He-Man. And he's not going to keep his plan a secret. He is going to project his face for everybody to see all over Eternia and tell them exactly what he is doing. And now we see it's like broad daylight, and we see He-Man, played by Dolph Lundgren, and he is in his bondage gear with a red cape. And he has a gun and a sword, and we have these like knockoff stormtroopers basically shooting at him with lasers. And Eternia, by the way, looks like just like a desert. And I remember like on the show, there was like lots of trees and stuff around, but Eternia, I don't even know why anyone would want to rule this place, because it's just caves and deserts, except for this one castle, Castle Grayskull. He-Man is saved by Teela and Man-at-Arms. I believe Teela is his daughter.
Yeah, they don't really say that at all in this show, which is like, again, if you're a first-time watcher, which the first time I watched this, like I don't really remember much about He-Man, didn't really investigate it. I thought that was like a weird couple thing for like a bunch of this movie, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's like a father-daughter combo. Okay, so yeah, and I love this guy's costume too. This guy's got like the most lo-fi kind of like space gear that you would ever see, and I love this dude. It's like he honestly is kind of reminds me of like my dad. This guy, he just got this big old dusty like broom mustache going on there, and yeah, his gear looks hilarious. It's like I don't really know what this looks. It's like a not
He
even
looks
really.
like he looks like a G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I guess so, kind of. Yeah, with just like a little stupid night flappy little laser helmet thing going on there. It's ridiculous, this costume. And this girl is wearing like spandex with like a backward visor, but it's not really. It's I'm sure maybe this is part of the costumes in the show. I didn't really look that up, but it's just interesting to think what people thought was cool in the 80s.
So we also have a smaller person here. I don't really say what he is, but if you've ever seen the Leprechaun, he looks like I would say the Leprechaun's makeup, like from the horror movies, might have been based off of this guy to an extent. They look a lot like each other. His name's Gwildor. Or Gwildor.
He kind of looks like the troll from Ernest Scared Stupid. Like his cheeks are melted into puddles. He's disgusting looking.
He is kind of gross looking, and he has really like pointy like ears, almost like, what would you call them? Almost like tails on the top of his ears.
Yeah, kind of like they're like almost like fox ears, but they're not. But they're like shaved down. It's just like, and he looks kind of like Freddy Krueger, but like a Viking dwarf.
But he's very hairy, very hairy. Red hair, lots of frilly red hair. He's very unkempt.
It's just crazy again that you've got like a toy manufacturer and presumably like involved in this movie. And they're like, we gotta market toys for kids because why else would this character exist in this movie? Because he's disgusting. Like he really is. We're gonna see in this movie. This guy he's just gross. Like somebody made this and it went through like an approval of people were like, you know what? Like kids will buy this toy and they like this. Like there's nothing good about this guy. He's horrific.
I think that like in the 80s, weren't like kids into like weird looking toys then, like Gremlins and all that kind of stuff.
Creepy crawlers and some of that stuff, I guess. Yeah, maybe. I guess so. I don't know. But it's like, I guess, like to be fair, you might be right there because there was a bunch of like those fantasy movies that had weird like puppet sidekicks, like again, like Labyrinth, we did that, and there's like Legend, and there's like a bunch of weird movies in the 80s where they had just people in crazy costume and they're like, bring your kids. What do you think?
And this little guy's wearing basically I don't know, a dirty green bathrobe. So that combined with these like this cheap army gear that Tila and Man at Arms are wearing, we got He-Man here in his harness and loincloth and boots. It's very odd.
Sexy Tarzan.
Yeah, and he's giant. Like Dolph Lundgren is like, I don't know what, like 6'7".
I don't know. Yeah, he's massive.
Yeah, so this is quite a little crew we have here. Getting back to the story, we find out that these Skeletor's henchmen were after Gwildor because I guess they used him to make a key. He's a locksmith. He makes keys that teleport you. So they're not really keys, but we call them keys. It's a teleporting device. Skeletor made him make a key so that he could sneak into Castle Grayskull and take the sorceress hostage. So now He-Man and this crew here and Gwildor, they have Gwildor use another key so that they can go to Castle Grayskull and save the sorceress, which they do. They don't even try to sneak in.
Yeah, that's right. It turns out that Gwildor has made a prototype for this before he gave one to Skeletor, apparently. So he has his own little secret key that Skeletor doesn't know about. But when they use this key, it's going to alert Skeletor's key, I should say. Also, I think we should describe kind of what this key looks like because, again, when you say it's not a normal key and it's a key for teleporting, like this doesn't look like anything that like you should, again, market to kids or anything like that. This thing looks crazy. This is like this like weird spinning knife dagger thing. It's massive, and you know what it kind of looks like. I was thinking it because it's a big rotating circle with like forks that just spin around on it, and there's 3 forks in the middle on another little platform that spin around too. This thing is crazy looking. It looks like you could just murder somebody with it. It does not look like a key. It looks like a weapon from Men in Black. But aside from that, what I was thinking is there's an episode in The Simpsons. This might be too weird and off the beaten path here, but there's an episode where Bart glues a bunch of stuff to his face and he can't get off his face. The glue is just stuck on there. So he goes to Dr. Hibbert, and Dr. Hibbert pulls out this giant machine, and it looks almost like this thing. And it makes Bart sweat so much and freak out that the sweat dislodges all the glue off his face. But it turns out that it's like a button machine. It's a button applicator. And that's what this thing looks like to me anyways. So, sorry for that.
Yeah, it's a messy looking device for sure.
Yeah, this is crazy looking. So as they're sitting in weird Gwildor's little murder hut, they're talking about what they should do with this key. And the door is smashed open by Skeletor's henchmen. So they grab the key and they try to run out the back door, and they get out of there and they teleport into Castle Grayskull. So now they've snuck into this place, but obviously they're going to be alerting Skeletor to their presence.
Yeah, he knows they're there right away, and he has his goons. They're all shooting at him. There's lasers going everywhere, different kinds of lasers too. Actually, I think the bad guys have red lasers and the good guys have like green lasers, but they really don't stand a chance. And they're telling Gwildor that he needs to get them out of there ASAP. So he's using his little device here, and he makes a portal. And they all jump in except for the sorceress. They're not able to get her because she's in like this protected force field that Skeletor has her trapped in. So she's saying, go save yourself. I'll be fine for now. And They jump in the teleport, and after they all jump in, they almost forgot their teleportation key, and Gwildor seems to have this grappling hook, and it just kind of comes in and grabs it, and he's like yoink, and takes the key with him.
Yeah, it's just so here's a question. What was the point of this scene? Was there a point to the scene? They showed up. Skeletor comes out. He goes, I know you're here. Him and his guys, they shoot at He-Man and his friends. Then Gwildor just opens up a teleporting little portal thing and they jump through it. And that was the scene. That was 7 minutes that I summed up in 15 seconds. Why?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they do that. The weird thing about it is, like, I thought the same thing, because they teleport to Earth. They have no idea where they're going, by the way. And they immediately make a plan to locate the key because it got lost somewhere in this community where they teleported to. And their plan is to use the teleporting key to go back to Castle Grayskull and rescue the sorceress. So again, like, why they're just going to do the same thing they just tried to do?
Wow. Okay, that might be a greater question that we have to explore later. That's interesting. That's something I didn't think about too. Wow, man, there's just an onion to how stupid the writing is in this movie. You're just like, this is dumb. And anyways, can we just real quick? Can we just describe what Skeletor looks like to everybody? Because, like, again, this being the audio version here, you can't really convey how bad a lot of the effects in this movie are. So I think we should just take a second here to just, like, explain what Skeletor looks like in this movie, because typically when you see Skeletor in the cartoon or in the comics, it's like
a floating skull on a hood.
Yeah, and he looks pretty crazy. It's a skeleton. He's, hey man, get out of here! And he's got a little. You're like, wow, that's a creepy looking, weird little skeleton. And in this movie, this guy, it's like a very bad prosthetic. It looks like the scene from Mrs. Doubtfire when he almost gets caught without the makeup and he puts a pie on his face and he goes, hello. That's what this looks like.
Yes, he looks like he got pie faced for sure. Only it's like really hard and shiny, almost like molding on the ceiling, like or something. Like it looks really, really weird. It doesn't look like a skull, but I think that's what they're going for. And I can't tell actually either if we're supposed to assume that this is a mask that this villain wears, or if we're supposed to believe that this is his face.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think you're just supposed to believe that he's a skeleton. And I guess that's as good as they thought they could do. Like, I don't understand this, man. Like, why does this look so bad?
One thing that's very different from the cartoon show is that this movie takes place, for the most part, on Earth. They've teleported away from Eternia, and now they are on Earth. And I think that they did that to save money, probably.
Yeah, but now they're back on Earth, and they kind of walk around a field or some swamp or something for a little bit.
Yeah, they're like in the marshy pit of the woods or something for a moment, and then they come across a cow.
Yeah, and then eventually they kind of steer themselves to me, the most interesting place in this whole movie. They steer themselves to a little place called Robbie's. It's a chicken and ribs restaurant is what this place is, I guess, on the side of the road here. And here's something I thought about, Tim. Again, just bringing this back to another episode that we did, The Leprechaun. You mentioned that you always looked at that episode as or that movie as an origin story for Rachel from Friends. And I thought about it watching this movie, and I thought, do you think this could be an origin story for Monica?
It certainly could be, because Courtney Cox is the main character in this movie, which I had no idea. The first time I watched that, or the first time I watched this, that totally threw me for a loop. I was like, wow, I didn't know that Courtney Cox did anything before Friends. And this was just like a year or two before.
Yeah. Yeah. And she works at Robbie's. This is great. She's got a little, well, she doesn't have a cowboy hat. Her friend has a cowboy hat, but it's amazing. So this girl, her name is Julie, but I want to call her Monica in this movie.
Yeah. I think we should call her Monica. So also, just another interesting fact, the sorceress, the actress that plays a sorceress, is also the actress who plays Monica Geller's mother in Friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's incredible. I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
So it's Monica here. She works at Robbie's Chicken and Ribs, and this is her last day. She has her plane ticket bought. She is saying she's getting ready to end her shift and say goodbye to her boyfriend, Kevin. And I guess the relationship's over. She just wants to move far away and restart her life. I think that she's like, I'm going to say that she's like 20 years old. I don't know. But this is a young Monica Geller. And she's thinking about moving to New York. So, and her friends trying to convince her to stay. But she hears a horn honking outside, and it's her boyfriend. So, she takes her bag of ribs and bucket of chicken out there, and he's sad that she's leaving. He doesn't want her to go. And she's like, I got to do it, Kevin. Sorry. She says, it's what my parents would have wanted me to do. And they decide to go to the cemetery so she can say one last goodbye to her parents, because they passed away recently, a few years ago, I think. I don't know.
So maybe we should play you guys a clip here. We're going to find out, obviously, I think we've already kind of explained this, that Monica's parents are dead, unfortunately. They've passed away. We don't really know what's gone on here, but Monica is going to fill us in on what happened to her parents.
I never told anyone this before. But it's my fault they died.
Julie, come on. It was a plane crash. Those things just happen.
You don't understand. So we were all supposed to go to the beach that day. But I said I had to study because I wanted to spend the day with you. So we took the plane to Catalina instead.
So that's funny. They were supposed to go to the beach, but because she said that she lied and said she wanted to study so she could hang out with her boyfriend, and they decided to take a plane to Catalina.
Yeah, that's a correct story, Tim. That's a true statement. That is what somebody wrote in this movie and wanted you to believe that this happened. I got a couple questions. Okay. Here's a question. Why is she explaining this to this guy? Because if you look at their tombstone, it says 1986. This movie came out in 1987. They filmed this, obviously, in 1986.
So this was last year then for her.
This must have been like 6 months at the most to me. Like maybe it's a year ago. But how does this guy not know about this?
Yeah, we'll say it happened a year ago, like last summer or something like that.
Yet the whole reason she snuck out was to go see this guy. So why?
But she did say, there's something I never told you. So she never told him that she lied to her parents about going to hang out with him. She blames herself for them getting on that plane. But I guess she just never told him about that particular lie that she told. Because in her mind, she could have saved her parents. I think it's more funny that they just were like, they had plans to go to the beach, and she was like, because she had to do homework, they were just like, all right, well, let's take a plane to Catalina. Like they could have just gone to the beach without her.
Yeah, this is like Tommy Wiseau level logic. Honestly, I feel like it's you're right. That sets up an interesting question. Just that whole logic of they didn't go to the beach because she wanted to study. So they're like, what the hell? Let's dust off the plane. Let's go to the Catalinas for maybe a wine mixer. Maybe they're going to go buy a helicopter. I don't know what they're going to do.
Maybe they had a private plane or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Even a private plane. It's like 30 G's to fly out somewhere, man. Maybe it's not that much. This is a lot of money. So here's a question for you that I had too. If you have enough money to charter a plane and or fly a plane somewhere, just for S's and G's, because you're like, my daughter is not going to go to the beach with us now.
She needs to study.
Yeah. Why does this girl now need to work at Robbie's Chicken Shack to support herself now that her parents are gone? Like, I feel like these people would have, like, if they got money for planes, do they not have money for life insurance? Or like, what happened there? This girl's now destitute and kicked out?
Maybe they blew it all their money on that last trip.
That is just amazing, the writing and logic in this movie. This is, I feel like, if I was 12 and you're like, can you write a movie for me, Paul? And I'd be like, okay, this is my He-Man movie. This is what you would get, folks, is this movie.
As they're leaving the cemetery here, they find this teleporter device, and it's laying somewhere on the ground here, like a flower bed in the cemetery. And Kevin here, he plays in a band, I guess, and he recognizes this. He recognizes this as a Japanese synthesizer. So he says, "Oh, this must be a new Japanese synthesizer because when he presses buttons, it makes sounds like this." So Kevin here, he has I think he's playing like at a graduation or something at a high school, and he's plugging in this teleporter device so he can like mic it up and use it for the performance or something. So every time he presses buttons and stuff on it, it also shoots out these like little flying like hologram looking. I don't know, how would you describe this?
It's like a holographic light show kind of thing.
Yeah, but they're like swirling around in the air and stuff. Like for anybody, like I would assume that's magic. Like if I saw that, I'd be like, whoa, this is some kind of like magic device, like projecting things into the air. But he still believes it's a synthesizer. And every time they use this, every time they press buttons and launch this bright stuff in the air, it sends a signal to the other device that Skeletor has, and they instantly know their location. So Skeletor has honed in on where they are, and he decides to send his bravest warriors to go and snatch up He-Man and the teleporter device. And these are actually guys from the show. There's a bald guy that has like these like steel-tipped ears. They're like sharp and stuff.
He looks like a villain from Dragon Ball. That's what this guy looks like. Like the first guy that Goku fights. Like it's crazy. I don't even remember his name anymore. Damn it. That's exactly what that guy looks like.
Layden? I think his name's Lade.
His name is Blade.
Blade. Yeah, that makes more sense. Because that's what he has. He has blades all around him. And there's another guy named Beastman who is basically a giant Sasquatch. And then there's this little runt of a person who, I don't know, he's ugly in the face. It looks really, really weird. Like he's like some kind of like a monster. But he has like bleached white hair, like a Targaryen, and he's really short.
You know those pictures you see of like Victorian people or like Beethoven, and they've got those crazy puffy wigs? He kind of looks like that with a hamster face. Yeah, his name is Karg, I believe. That's right. And then there's another guy who's like a snake face kind of dude, and his name is Sarod.
Kevin decides that he's going to go and check out the synthesizer, this key, but he thinks it's a synthesizer, with his buddy, and he leaves Monica here at the school by herself. And no sooner these 4 beasts, these henchmen, teleport into like a room nearby the gymnasium where Monica is, and immediately like there's this janitor guy, and he comes out and he's like, "What? You guys don't belong here." And they just start beating the crap out of him.
I love this.
They beat the crap out of him, and they punch him around a little bit, and they like throw him into a closet. And he doesn't know what to make of this. And they go into the gymnasium, and they see Monica, and they just start shooting lasers at her. And one of the guys are like, "Hey, we need her alive so that she can tell us where the key is." But they don't stop. They're just shooting lasers around, and amp blows up, and now the gymnasium is on fire. And she's just like crawling around under tables. Meanwhile, Blade here is like shoving swords and stuff down through the table, trying to kill her. Like there's absolutely nobody's trying to keep her alive or ask her anything. They don't even talk to her. They just immediately start trying to kill her. So this place is burning down, and He-Man is kind of wandering around the back. And they're in like this warehouse now. I think it's supposed to be still part of the school, but this appears to be like some kind of a giant warehouse with boxes all over the place.
Yeah, it's like a warehouse for Indiana Jones, or like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of warehouse or something. Or
he meets up with Monica. She's immediately like, "I don't know what to do." And He-Man's like, "I will help you." Because he talks very robotic. He really has no emotion in his voice. And he scoops her up in his arms, and she just kind of like falls asleep while he carries her around and kind of puts her next to a box. And one by one, He-Man starts going around trying to get them. And he shoots one of them, I think, in the face. Yeah, actually, he kills a few of them with his laser gun. And then I think he has a sword fight with Blade. And then no sooner, Man at War. Is that his name, Man at War?
Man at Arms?
Man at Arms? Something like that. Him and Tila, the father and daughter, G.I. Joes, they show up to save He-Man here. And they start shooting, And these four henchmen just like, they boot it the other way. They're like, retreat, retreat. Which, like, I'm surprised. It was still like 4-on-3. They still should have been able to fight, but they apparently were just like so scared after that they just retreated right back to Castle Grayskull. The police and firefighters have shown up, and there's this one no funny business detective. He's very serious, and Kim and Kevin are both there at the same time. And Kevin's like, "Where's Monica? Where's Monica? I need her."
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, you know who this cop is, Tim? Do you know who this hard-nosed cop is?
I think is he in Back to the Future? Or
That is correct. He's the principal in Back to the Future. His name is Lubick in this movie. His name is Lubick. This guy is hilarious, and this guy is just a complete dick to Kevin in this movie. We're gonna find out. But can we just stop for a second and just play a clip real quick? Because when Kevin arrives on the scene, they're wheeling out the janitor, who you kind of mentioned a few minutes ago, the guy who got beat up really badly by these bad guys here, and they wheel him out, and his name is Carl, and this kid, Kevin, asks him, "Carl, what happened?" Can we just play this? Here we go.
Carl, what happened? You don't never want to know.
And so I would be telling him, I'd be like, dude, there was like a Sasquatch thing, and this ugly guy with a white wig, but he doesn't tell anybody. He's like, you don't want to know, and like he gets put into the ambulance, and he's gone.
You don't never want to know. Like he got beat up pretty bad, but he got like punched and kicked a couple times, and then they left him alone. Like that guy was out of there with like 4th-degree burns, and it looked like he just got beat up horribly. So did they come back and they kind of tortured him a bit after they lost He-Man? I don't really know, but it just, it didn't really seem that bad for Carl. It seemed like he could have like scrambled out of there after they kicked him and the place was on fire,
So now Kevin shows up, and he's like, where's Monica? I need Monica. Like, is she safe? And the detective is like instantly suspicious of him. And he's like, hey, you tell me your girlfriend was here? What are you doing here? What's going on? And he's like, it doesn't matter. You need to find her. And he's like, okay. And he starts writing down like what she looks like. And he's like, what? You're just going to write stuff down now? You should be finding her. And he goes, well, how about this? How about I just arrest you? And he arrests him and throws him in the car. And the detective makes Kevin take him to Monica's house.
Yeah, you know what they say? It's always the boyfriend, right? That seems to always be the rule. So I would be suspicious of this guy too.
As far as the detective knows, he doesn't know that there's ever been any girl in there. Like, why is he even concerned about this Raven guy, about his girlfriend? Like, there's no evidence of her ever being there. But anyways, we're going there. That's where they're going. And then we are back at Castle Grayskull. And the 4 henchmen showed up, and they lie to Skeletor and tell him that the massive backup came and there's nothing they could do. And Skeletor is not impressed. He kills one of them and then sends his other like closest henchman, I guess. Her name's Evil Lynn, and he sends her and a few more henchmen, as well as the 3 that are still surviving. He sends them back out to do the exact same thing. So now they're back at Monica's place, Kevin here and the detective, looking for her. And the detective is very curious about the synthesizer, so he starts playing, and he's like, this sounds pretty cool. When I say synthesizer, I'm talking about a teleporter device. And now Skeletor knows their location again.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny here. Actually, it's Lubick is inside Monica's home with this guy Kevin. Which again, I got a question here. Like, if Monica's parents are dead, who lives at this lady's house now? Like, this, I mean, she works at Robbie's Chicken Shack. Her parents have this house paid off. Like,
all of her parents' money died in the plane crash. So in order for her to keep the house, she had to start doing long shifts at Robbie's Chicken.
Okay. Well, she's there. She's not there. They're at her house checking the place out, and Lubick's smoking inside the house. I think this is hilarious. This dude's just in there hacking a dart, just in the kitchen. He's just waiting. They're trying to find out if she's going to show up there. Anyways, you're right. So he takes this thing, and he's just like, he's going to go see this guy, Charlie, about this synthesizer. He doesn't believe Kevin, and he's going to go take it to the pawn shop. And as he leaves, it looks like Skeletor's henchmen show up in the front door kind of thing. and they just beat the crap out of Kevin. They go running looking for this thing. And it's just like, again, just they're one step behind where the stupid key is again. So they leave, and as they do that, again, one more step behind. It's just one of these never-ending stupid party train movies. He-Man and his friends show up now, and they're like, hey, Kevin, what happened? He's like, the key, the blah, blah, blah. The same thing we just told you 2 times that you just saw now that it just happened. We're going to tell it to you again, and we're going to go. And so they all run now to the pawn shop.
How unfocused is this detective? So, like, one moment he's trying to solve an arson crime at school. A janitor was attacked. Now he is holding what he believes to be a synthesizer device and is taking it to a pawn shop to get it checked out. Like, what? He doesn't know anything about the existence of He-Man or Eternia, none of this.
And he was also suspicious a few minutes ago about the boyfriend potentially murdering some girl that he doesn't even know exists.
So he just leaves her alone in the girl's house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's his way. He's got to smoke and check things out, man. He's got lots of things to do here.
So the detective here is at the pawn shop getting this device checked out. And no sooner He-Man and the rest of the crew all show up. He still doesn't believe them as far as what's going on. He just thinks they're a bunch of Halloween freaks and stuff because they're all dressed right weird. And then the henchmen show up. So there's a big laser shootout. There's really not much to say except for that. It's just a big shootout. They're hiding and dodging and that kind of thing. Nobody's getting hit. Nobody's getting hurt except for nameless bad guys. And while that's going on, Monica is in the back hiding and she's like looking out the window. And who does she see? Her dead mother. She runs out to say hi to her mom, and her mom is like, I've missed you so much. And Monica's like, I thought you were dead. And here's what she tells Monica.
Oh, I'm so sorry I had to go through all of that, Julie. But we had to disappear. We're doing very important, very secret work.
Super, super important, super secret work. Just forget about that. I'm sorry that we lied. You know, we had to leave.
We're doing secret work, she said. And this girl is believing this right now. I know you're seeing your mom for the first time, so yeah, I guess you could say whatever, but like somebody wrote, again, we're doing secret work. And people are just like, that's good. You should, well, that's good enough. Like, I can't, again, this is 12-year-old Paul that was like, they're like, Paul, could you write a He-Man movie? And I was like, and then the parents died. And then they came back and said they were doing secret work. So you'd be like, that's really nice. I'm going to put this up on the fridge. Good work, buddy.
Monica doesn't question a thing. She's just like, I'm just so glad to see you. And she hugs. They hug and they're rejoicing. And her mom's like, I need you to do one quick thing for me, though. And she's like, what's that, Mom? She's like, can you go and get me that key? You know, that's what me and your father need right now. That's what the mission's been all about. Monica's like, doesn't question. She's like, yeah, Mom, sure. Yeah, so she wanders back in and she doesn't even sneak it out. She just tells everyone, she's like, hey, guess what? You're never going to believe this. My mom's alive. And she needs the key. And she's like, yoink, and takes it and runs out. And they're like, Monica, what are you doing? And she runs out and she gives the key to her mother and hugs her. But then when she's done hugging her and she sees her, it was actually Evil Lynn. She was disguised as her mother. And now Monica feels stupid because she feels stupid and sad because her mother's not alive and she ruined the plans.
Yeah, so Evil Lynn does that. And then it looks like a portal opens and the gang is about to try to run through it, but Skeletor and his army of robot whatever people come out, and these guys that honestly they're dressed kind of like what are those, the stormtroopers in Star Wars? That's kind of what these guys are dressed like. Their costumes are very much like that.
They do look like knockoff stormtroopers, yeah.
Yeah, they're rip-off. The rip-off costumes is kind of somewhere between that and like a knight helmet. Like it's got that little lower face piece part with like Darth Vader's helmet on top.
Now there's a bunch of fighters that come out and they're on like the Hobgoblin from the Spider-Man, the villain. They're on one of his like hoverboards. And Dolph Lundgren kills one of them and takes the hoverboard. And now he is just zooming around, and these got to be this is an audio podcast, but if you could see this is some of the worst effects ever in a movie. He's flying around on this thing, and it doesn't look right at all.
This is like Plan 9 from outer space level graphics, but for 1987, you know what I mean? It's like that. That's how bad this looks. It is so obvious that it's just like horribly rotoscoped out of a film, and they're just like it looks like it's like South Park or stop motion. They like superimpose this thing. It's shuffling all across the screen. It's really bad. Wow, how Dolph Lundgren looks. Like, really, people, go look at this online. It's terrible.
So they all end up on the top of this roof now, and they get the key. However, Skeletor rises up on this, like, I don't know, this unit of a thing that he's sitting on. It looks like a hovercraft, really. Like, or not even a hovercraft. Yeah, like a hovercraft, something you see on the water with like a giant fan, like people would use in like the marsh or something like that. Giant fan behind him. But this thing is like hovering around and flying. And he's about to steal the key. And He-Man is flying in. He's like going to save him, but Skeletor zaps him and he wipes out and just takes the key. Because Skeletor has powers very similar to the Emperor from Star Wars. He can shoot lightning bolts out of his hand. Nobody here stands a chance. So he basically takes it. He zaps Monica in the leg, so she's got a nasty gash. And it's also, they say that she's been zapped with poison. So she's dying now. And all the bad guys, they go back to Eternia to fulfill Skeletor's prophecy as the master of the universe. Now, I have one question already, like, of how easy it was for Skeletor to just come out of this portal and zap everybody. Nobody wants to mess with him. Why didn't he just do this himself from the very beginning?
I don't know, because this movie is stupid. That's the answer. I mean, none of this makes sense, right? Because they showed up to the castle, to leave the castle, to be like, we got to go back to the castle to save the prince. So like, none of this makes any sense. This is really just to waste our time and money and our lives. I think that's the answer to all of this. But you're 100% right, because like Skeletor is like super OP in this. He just shows up there and he like, there's the worst like Neil Breen level effect in this movie, again, that like kind of like hits Monica in the leg of all places. And it's, again, this is terrible acting from Monica here. What, Courtney Cox, sorry, I keep forgetting her actual real name, but like she just like kind of like limply falls to the ground. She's like, and I'm like, you really did this. And then someone looked at you and were like, you should be our star in Friends. I don't know.
Skeletor is gone now. And now our group of heroes here, they don't know what to do, because he doesn't remember, the Gwildor here, he doesn't remember the notes to use this synthesizer teleporting device, but Kevin can remember. So they get this really innovative idea. Now, get this. They're going to use the teleporter to go to Castle Grayskull and fight Skeletor. The exact same thing that they've tried to do already. The exact same thing. There is nothing different about their plan from before. They're just going to go in.
I think the main difference is in this time, Tim, that they don't have the key now, right? Because Skeletor has one key. He broke the other key. So now they have to go back to Charlie's pawn shop to get a keyboard and hook up with a bunch of mishmash gobbledygook made up crap that apparently everybody has in their pockets, like little whistles and yo-yos or whatever the heck they've got. And they're going to put all this together, and that's going to make this key thing. But you're right. They're totally just going to go back to Castle Grayskull and fight Skeletor again. What is this? Is an hour and like 20 minutes in this movie when they have this revelation. What the hell?
So we forgot to mention, actually, Skeletor captured He-Man when he went back to Castle Grayskull. He-Man is imprisoned by chains by his arms. And at this point, they appear to have removed his harness. So now he's standing there, but he's tough. And he is just flexing while a guy behind him is whipping him. And he's going, ooh, ah, ooh. I can't help but not acknowledge the homoerotic overtones or undertones, whatever you call it, in this movie here at this point, because Skeletor's like obsession with He-Man at this point, and the way He-Man looks, like, this did not age well. This looks really, really weird.
It's hilarious. Yeah. And I like the whip too. It looks so terrible. Again, if you look at how it's all synced up because they just added this stupid laser whip in special effects. And it's just like Dolph Lundgren doesn't even really move in sync with this guy whipping him. And with the and the cheap effects and the weird effects and the skimpy sweaty outfits and stuff, like it's just like, this is amazing how bad this one scene is in this movie. This is amazing.
It is, because he could, like, Skeletor right now, he could kill He-Man and just have this completely over with. But he's like, no, I want to make an example out of him. So he's like enjoying the whipping and stuff as well. So yeah, there's a lot of odd admiration going on here in this torture scene. It's almost like something from out of 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. It's like 50 Shades of Skeletor.
Yeah, you're right. That's good, actually. That's right. Well, I think he also wants him to sort of like broadcast to Eternia that, hey guys, like I'm gonna be whatever, cool with Skeletor or hot for Skeletor or whatever. Like,
actually, he says specifically, I want He-Man on his knees. But He-Man refuses to go down, no matter how hard of a whipping, no matter the lashings he's going to take here. He will not go down.
That's right. But it doesn't matter because it seems like now Skeletor has absorbed enough power that he kind of just turns into like Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat, and he has like a gold helmet thing now.
I would say no question that Shao Kahn was modeled after, in some kind of a way, after Skeletor's look here.
Yeah, right. It's almost uncanny how crazy it's like. It's the same thing. It's a stupid little weird helmet he's got. This little stupid gold little robot helmet.
And really, there's nothing besides his suit. There's nothing like tangible that has actually changed. We don't really see him. He's still using the same powers. He's holding a different staff now, and yeah, there's nothing's really changed. He just got the sword from He-Man and put it in his throne, and he turned into a Super Shredder version of Skeletor.
Yeah, you're right. And he's like, yes, I have the power. And he's just, he's got a gold cape now. That's about it. Everything's gold.
And now this crew here, He-Man's friends, they just in the nick of time, they managed to get this teleporter device to work. And now they are all teleported to Castle Grayskull, along with a detective who happens to show up with a shotgun. And this time when they teleport, it takes a whole scene, like literally, it takes like the stage that they were using, like the scene out of the town, and now portions of it, like part of the pink car and stuff, they're all in Castle Grayskull.
This looks like a diorama. If you just had like, it's like when you get like mishmash Lego sets as a kid, like you just had like 3 Lego sets that you just kind of, your friends had one and you had like a Lego set that was kind of cool, but you put them together, but you know, the two worlds didn't really make sense. That's what this is here. It looks really bad. Again, with the theme of looking terrible, that is very consistent in this.
Yeah, it's like they just took the set piece from one area and put it in the Castle Grayskull set piece.
Yeah, and the car, even the car, like it's cut. It's a section of this car. The car doesn't look like it's like fried or ripped apart or anything. It's just like, they just like painted the car like all the way down, this nice smooth color, everything on it. It's perfect. It's crazy. It's hilarious though. But it doesn't matter. And I love that this guy Lubick, that's the cop, and that's the principal there from Back to the Future. This guy, again, with the shotgun, they're like, this bald dude looks really good with the shotgun. I don't know why they didn't give this guy a movie. Besides just because he's just kicking ass here. He's just shooting dudes left, right, and center, screaming at everybody.
Yeah, wearing his big raincoat or duster type thing, and he is just killing people with his shotgun. And really, the majority of it's not really a fight. Like all of the laser fights, this is like the 6th or 7th laser fight gun battle that we've seen, and it looks exactly like the rest of them. You don't see anybody hit anyone except for some of the bad guys that get hit. The good guys are perfectly fine. It's like not even a challenge. So the fight's going on. He-Man is just throwing around these henchmen, tossing them into the abyss. There's like lots of big giant holes around here. And he is trying to get over to Skeletor. So he like pushes over this giant statue and runs across it, uses it as a bridge, and gets his sword. Pretty easy, actually. Like it's not much of an inconvenience. He just grabs it. He yells out, "I have the power!" And now we go into a sword fight, and their swords are so powerful that it absorbs the light out of the room completely. And we just see It is literally a black room with some lights now, and like not very much lights at all. We just see Skeletor and He-Man having a sword fight until finally He-Man gets the better of Skeletor and he throws him into the abyss and he falls. For a long, long time, the special effects don't look very good. But yeah, that whole fight is just like, there's some like really cheap effects in it and stuff, but the whole thing is in darkness. And I got to mention this. The reason when I looked when I was reading about this movie, the reason why it was like that is while they were shooting the scene here for the fight, everybody was fighting and stuff. Literally at that time, studio executives came in the room and they were like, "All right, it's over, budget's cut." So the director was left with that. Like, and he was like, "I just need like 20 more minutes of footage," and they were like, "Nope, too bad." So he did it himself, and he got the actors Dolph Lundgren and Skeletor to come in and film this one last scene, and that's why it was in total pitch darkness because they had almost like no set to work with. They just had like a couple pieces and like a dark room, so they filmed that with a few lights, and that was the ending scene of the movie.
Huh. Okay, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. That is hilarious. Yeah, it looks like, Skeletor is gone and the day is saved. Now the lights come back on the room. The budget has apparently existed for this part of the movie.
Or they shot this scene first. They shot it before, yeah.
That's right. And everybody's really happy that Skeletor is gone. And it looks like Lubick is just going to hang out now. He's going to retire from the police force. And he's got some chick now that...
I think it's this. I thought it was a sorceress at first, but maybe it's not. It's somebody. But yeah, he's got some kind of girl there. He's happy. He's got girls. It seems as though he's the ruler of Castle Grayskull now.
Well, the sorceress is there. I thought she rules the place, but yeah, it seems like he's just hanging out there now. Apparently,
she protects it. Yeah,
yeah. It just seems like he's just kind of there. I don't know. He's like an advisor, or he's playing some sort of role there, But he's gonna just do his thing there. It seems like, and I guess Kevin and Monica are going to go back. And Gwildor's like, "We can send you back to any time or if you want, like past or the future or whatever." And they're like, "No, it's all good." And as they're going into the portal, Monica realizes, she's like, "Oh yeah, duh, I could go back in time. If I could turn back time, just like Cher, I would go back and I would stop my parents." And then she's like, "Gwildor, no." And the portal closes and she wakes up. And somehow you just are supposed to know this is the day that her parents were going to fly this airplane.
Yeah, when they were going to go to the beach.
Yeah, like she just runs down the stairs and her parents are alive now, which I guess you would just know. I don't know, but you just know at this point that they're going to go to the airport or something. And she's like, "No, don't do that." And she steals the keys and runs away.
Yeah, she's like, "I changed my mind. I don't want to study today. Please don't go to the airport. Please don't go to the airport." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's go to the beach." She meets Kevin outside, and he has like a ring that they gave him from some kind of an amulet or whatever from Eternia. So he knows about everything that happened. It's weird that they time traveled, but they both know about everything that happened prior to time traveling. I don't know. It's very weird and rushed. And then we hear He-Man again yell, "I have the power," one more time. And that's the end of the movie. We see the credits. Except for we see this, like, I don't know if it's not lava, but it's like red water. And out of nowhere, Skeletor pops his head up through the water. He says, "I'll be back." And spoiler alert, he never comes back. There's no sequel. But they added that in there because at the time they thought that there would be a sequel to this. But Canon Film Studios closed not too long after this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
I'm just really glad that movie is over now. So we can just be done with it and we never have to watch this again, because I got to tell you, when we said we were going to do this again, I was like, "Oh, right on." I was like, I remember that it wasn't bad, I was like, I kind of remember this wasn't that terrible. I thought in my head. And then I went back and watched this thing and I was like, this was this was terrible. I just remember there was a bunch of funny stuff in this movie, and the logic in this is crazy and really stupid. That part's hilarious. But everything else about this movie is painful.
Yeah, this isn't that good. I know, like, I rewatched this today, like right before we started recording, and halfway through, I was like, oh, I remember why we never really went back to this movie. Because, yeah, I mean, there's really not much good to say. And I think the worst part of it is that there's really not much to say in general, other than that it just looks really weird. Dolph Lundgren and his bondage is very distracting from any story here, because he just looks so out of place wandering around like that in, regular day Earth. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting choices in this movie,
That character, Gwildor, he is very annoying. He's not pleasant to look at. He's not pleasant to hear. He's just a wacky distraction for the kids, probably some kind of a toy or something. And no, this isn't fun. I think, neither one of us has really paid much attention to He-Man, like the cartoons and stuff. But this has got to be the worst version of He-Man ever, right? I would think so anyways.
Yeah.
I would sooner watch a cartoon, an episode or two. I'd sooner watch 3 different episodes, like an hour and a half worth of He-Man episodes, than ever watch this movie again.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair statement. I mean, this movie is not good. I mean, the cartoon, like, I watched an episode of it a while ago, and it's just like, it was tough. It was tough to watch too. This is also tough, but you're right. I think I would probably just pick an episode or 3, because at least it's like, oh, I've never seen that before. This I've seen before, and I have no desire to watch this anymore. This is like, this is just really long. There's a lot of stuff in this that they just didn't need to do. And I don't really, and like, if the budget was so long, or if the budget was so constrained, I don't see why you just didn't need to cut a bunch of stuff out of this. And again, maybe it's due to that they didn't, like, you didn't really, like, He-Man's not really in this movie a lot.
The aspects from the He-Man universe that they chose to cut from the movie completely is a little bit baffling. Like, so He-Man, like you said, he's not really in this movie, but he's like a cardboard character. They don't include the fact that that he transforms into He-Man, or that he has like another alter version of himself that might be interesting or anything like that. He is just He-Man. You don't need to know anything about him at all. He's just He-Man. He likes to wear bondage, and he wants to keep Eternia safe forever. And that's really it. It's just like, there's just nothing to it at all. He's a boring, boring character. With that said, actually, we didn't really mention it all through the episode. The actor that plays Skeletor is actually kind of like, he seems like he's really into it. He is trying. Of anybody in this movie, he's trying the hardest. But, I mean, he's got horrible makeup. He looks weird as hell. Like, he got pie face. He looks like Mrs. Doubtfire, like you said. And as try as he might, it's not enough to make this movie that interesting. And it's funny because, when I was reading about this movie, it has a really big cult following. Now, I don't know if I think maybe it's because it's so bad. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if maybe there are people that really like this. I can see, like, if you're a kid, like the way that we kind of liked the Power Rangers movie a little bit, like, that might be a fair comparison to some extent, but the Power Rangers have more. There's just way more personality in all of them than there is in this movie.
No, this is just like, it just, I mean, I guess if you were a He-Man fan, I could understand why you'd like this, but it really is stupid. Like, the logic in this is so dumb. The plot it makes no sense. Like, none of this. And I just don't understand, again, if you're Skeletor, it sounds like and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot. That's always a very 100% probable thing. That, like, I just thought that they said that basically the longer that Skeletor kind of can suck the power off this princess, the stronger he gets, or the sorceress, the stronger he gets. So it just seems like, why would you go chase He-Man if He-Man ran away? Wouldn't you want him to just stay away for a really long time so that you could get more power? And then you just, like, the longer he stays away, the better for you. So it doesn't really matter if you chase him. Like, he's just going to come back. Like, why not just wait for him to come back and attack you, I guess?
He's obsessed with He-Man. That's what I said. That's why there seems like there's a little bit of homoerotic undertones here in Skeletor's obsession with He-Man. Like he wanted to get him so bad so that he could like chain him up and watch him get whipped.
Yeah, it's that's really interesting. It was an interesting choice they made there, in that I definitely thought it was hilarious when they were whipping him in that little, whatever you want to call it, that Tarzan get-up thing that he had, that sex outfit.
Yeah, I think it's one of these cases where they were really, they had the idea in their head and the execution was just like, whoa. And like maybe like their budget was low. So once they had what they had, they're like, well, I don't care what it looks like. This is what we're doing. This is what we're sticking with it. We're sticking with the plan. It's just an odd thing to have in a He-Man movie. But while I was reading, I also found out that He-Man is actually like a gay icon. Like he's not gay himself, but like in the LGBTQ community and stuff, he's kind of revered in a lot of ways. I don't think it has anything to do with the outfit and stuff, but I think it's just because like there's a lot of unintentional like undertones with He-Man in general.
Well, I mean, like, again, this is like, Thor or something like that. It's like, it's a muscly dude, right? So it's like, anybody, if you're into muscly dudes, right? I guess that's like, this is He-Man's.
Dolph Lundgren's your guy.
Yeah, He-Man's right, number one on the list. Maybe he's number two. I don't know what he is on the list there. But yeah, so for a lot of people, it might float their boat, I guess.
Yeah, it might. So check it out if that's your thing. Go for it. Check out this movie.
I guess so. I just like there's so much stuff in this movie you just didn't need. And again, Gwildor was one of those things. This guy is so gross. Putting this thing in this movie was just not. This is not for anybody. This is not good. We don't like this. It's gross. This is this weird, creepy character. Stop, please. He's terrible.
I have no desire to ever look at this movie again. I won't recommend it to anybody unless I come across someone who's a huge fan of He-Man, which you've probably seen this anyways if you are. So I'm probably never going to talk about this movie out loud again.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it's just this one's over. We're done with, it seemed like a good idea before to be like, let's go and revisit this because there was something there, like I said. And,
no, there's not much there.
Yeah, at least this one's over now. So that's good.
On to the next one.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Anyways, Tim, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to take this sword and I'm ready to take this sword and transform out of here somewhere or something on my space tiger. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have a cold shower, go to bed.
Okay, cool. That's it for this one.
Yeah, I'm ready to end. I don't want to speak of this anymore.
Yeah, perfect. Me either. We're done with this. Thank God. Let's let Lubick send you out.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.